18.2 A and B.
That was synced up.
That was.
Right now, here's what we got to do. If this love is electric, it'll be flowing on the street. Night after night, just to get through the week. Sometimes it's hard. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. We're dual green screening. Easy for you to
Nope,
say.
damn it. Not so easy.
We're dual. And have we had two coaches at the same time evaluating? No.
I don't think so.
Always coach an athlete.
It's going to be so powerful, this analysis.
Oh, yeah. All right. Brandi's on top. I've been working with Brandi for, I think, 6.5 years. And Cal is coached by Adam and on the bottom. Some context, they're trying to qualify for Dubai. We're in 11th or 12th?
We were 12th after week 1.
They took
They-
a couple points as
Yeah.
a team. And this is their first attempt. We will be redoing it. We have both athletes up on the screen at the same time. They actually kind of have similar limitations on this workout specifically. I think Brandi's a little bit more comfortable with long-range workouts. Cal is stronger and more explosive as an athlete. From a gymnastics perspective, they're pretty
I'd say they're pretty
close.
similar. Bar muscle up turnover, about the same.
Yeah. Cal was an individual regional qualifier this year. Brandi was on our team. Brandi finished, I think, like 30th or something like that. So I think it just would depend on the testing structure. They went 1-1 last week in the Dubai qualifier, and then in this qualifier, they went 1-1 as well, right? 1-1 and 1-1 the other. Strategy perspective, I can only speak for Brandi. You want to talk about what you guys talked about? For
Yeah,
the
so,
workout ahead of
I mean,
time?
looking at this workout as a whole, the two parts of it, like, it's obvious that we wanted Cal to be able to put up a big lift at the end. That's something where having the ability to express her strength, which is always going to be around moving a heavy barbell, like, we wanted her to still be in a state where she could put up a big number and help the team. So when we tried to come up with her pacing structure on the first part of it, we wanted to make sure that her burpee pace was something that was going to try and stay as sustainable as possible. So it's really easy for her as she fatigues to sort of become less mindful of her footwork, taking extra pauses in there, taking one too many breaths per rep. So we tried to come up with a game plan of making sure that the burpees stayed around 4 seconds per rep and try and stay as sustainable as possible and not moving too fast there so her heart rate doesn't get jacked up. And she starts to get a little bit of lower back pain when she tries to cycle those a little bit too fast. So a lot of our pacing was built around trying to make sure that the burpees stayed as sustainable as possible. I think that number got up pretty high for both of them. They're both talking about how their triceps and their arms were more blown up than they expected.
Yeah. It's really interesting to watch this playback for the first time while doing commentary on it, watching how they execute it differently. My plan with Brandi, she kind of had paced out one round ahead of time while I was training, and she wanted me to help keep her accountable on her rest times for muscle ups. So I took that whiteboard and I took the amount of, and her plan was to go 4-2-2. I took her transitional rest time from finishing the second set of burpees to the first set of 4-bar muscle ups, then the transition from 4 to 2, and then the transition from 2 to 2. And she wanted me to try to hold her accountable to that pace, and her goal was to go out somewhere between a 225 and a 235 and then hold that pace all the way through. I held her accountable to that for the first 2 rounds, and then you could just see the laboring of the muscle ups and the just difficulty in the slowing down of the burpees. So I just said, look, you go up on your own at this point, and then I'll just kind of keep the pressure on you. So we had to kind of deviate away from that plan. So I'll definitely work through something on the redo to make sure that we have a better plan in place for just breaking and splits. This is I think a really good workout to illustrate just how difficult without data it is to like strategize a complicated workout like this, because you don't really know what the limitation is going to be. Is it should we encourage them to walk through and step through on the lunges? Should we encourage a faster burpee turnover? Should we encourage getting some of the big sets of muscle ups out up front, knowing that you're going to get deterioration in the end? Like, you have all these options. I always just default to letting the athlete pick what they're most confident with, because if you're not confident in your plan, you're fucked. It's really hard to execute if you're already going into the workout like, I don't think I can do this. So
it's always interesting as a coach, picturing the game plan, what it was for the first one, what went wrong, and what you think needs to change, because like, you and I both still work out, we both still do CrossFit, and like, I know how I would change it for myself, right? You do CrossFit. I saw you do that 30-minute time trial.
It sucked.
But there's always this temptation to fall into something that you're comfortable and confident with, and it's really empowering to make sure that it's coming from the athlete. So like you said, it resonates more with them, and it makes sense in terms of what they felt was going on with their first attempt. So, but if you look at the pacing for both of them over the course of the 4 rounds, like, there was just too significant of a drop off. I mean, they both started like 220 to 230 for the first round and ended at like 315 or so. Yeah. Like, I think that whatever it ends up being, like, still trying to make sure that those are normalized and standardized a little bit, I think will be the goal for Cal at least.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's also, I mean, watching back, playback, I think there's always little things. I think as a coach, I always have one foot, or not foot, but that's the word I'm going to use, one foot in the present moment and one in the future. So I look at technical things like, what are the errors I see from a muscle up perspective that could make these a more efficient movement in the future? And then you have the present moment right now is like, well, what's the best way to strategize this? Because giving her a cue and saying, keep this tight or keep this, is not going to make her execute better in the workout. Right. So when I go back and do these types of reviews, I have both of those things in mind, but from a qualifier perspective, it's just about whatever you got today and 3 days from now in your repeat, like, you're not going to make statistical progress on a specific skill unless it's something you haven't done a lot of. So coming up with strategies for working with what they do have. I think both of them, after watching this, might be able to save, depending on what blew up, they might be able to save some time by swinging through instead of doing this little stutter step. I know the stutter step, they take 8 or 9 lunges per round. So, this is excellent teamwork, by the way. We're redoing the line on the top. I like that. Adam has a cameo. I forgot what I was saying.
The step through on the lunge.
Oh, yeah. So if you're losing like 1/10 of a second on each one of those steps, or 1/4 of a second on each one of those steps, over the course of lunging back and forth 8 times, it actually does play out to be a meaningful amount of time when the leaderboard gets populated, because most people at an elite level are relatively close together. And I think for, somebody who's not competing at the highest level, those are the things I think from an execution perspective that can really be meaningful, like, ways to progress without the work requirement of doing hard training. Yeah. Which is why video review, I think, is so important. It's done in every single professional sport. People will do video review and video analysis, and it's very infrequently done, I've found, with people that consider themselves competitors or even just amateur competitors that like to do weekend stuff. They don't watch themselves work out, get a gauge for what positions they're in when they're resting, how long they're resting. Time gets so distorted when you're doing workouts like this.
It's so weird to always go back and watch yourself and be like, why aren't you going right now? Like, just go, stop resting. But that's definitely something that Cal and I have tried to stay a little bit more mindful of, is things like her resting posture, so when she's resting right now, when she chalks, or when she goes down in between her sets of bar muscle ups, staying upright, making sure that she stays in control of her facial expressions and her positive mantra in her head. I think little things like that, on top of the technical cues, help them to continue to build momentum as they go through a workout.
Height and weight, I think Brandi is 5'8", 160. Is Cal about the same anthropometrics?
Probably just a little bit heavier, not very much.
Yeah, so both of them are not like optimally sized in this sport for gymnastics, and I think after watching them do burpees, when Brandi comes down this way or go down, they definitely have time that they could get back as a result of working on footwork. I know with Brandi, when we went through a training cycle, I think it was after 14.5, so after, which is 16.5 also. I made her retest that like
A
8
million times.
Oh my
eight
gosh.
times in
Felt like
6
every day I
months.
saw her doing that.
Yeah, but we did a ton of footwork patterns, but it was always step up, rotate, like because that you were allowed to do it back then. This new standard definitely, I think, maybe some mobility restrictions or just inability to compress all the way up to get the feet closer, like those little extra steps. It was really notable when we did the team series with Travis and Noah, watching Travis take those extra steps and seeing how much rest time Noah had when he was doing his workout. I think the same type of thing gets illustrated. You just don't see any discrepancy between Brandi and Cal because they both kind of have that issue. Cal does that hop up and then double step to the bar, and Brandi does a hop up and then a like a half rotation and jumps up laterally. So maybe that's like the little amount of time that Brandi was able to beat Cal on the execution of this. Like those little things are definitely areas of opportunity to train in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting watching Cal's footwork here because I was expecting to go back and see it get sloppier, and it seems like the footwork itself stayed relatively consistent in terms of hop up, 2 feet to the bar, jump over, turn and twist. It's just that the actual execution of the footwork slowed down.
Yeah.
Like there was pauses inside of each one of those steps.
Yeah. Cal's pretty far behind, but it's only like 10 seconds at the end of the workout, right?
Yeah, it was 11:35, 11:45, I think.
Is the camera placement ruining the...
Oh yeah, they're a little out of frame on one set of burpees, but Chris said he did that because their husbands are both part of our organization, so he wanted to make sure that it was PG-13.
He's got the butt view.
Avoiding the butt views.
I go through all the TTT stuff. We ain't have no thirsty butt photos. If we get any likes, it's going to be because we can earn them.
You're a man of integrity.
To be honest, I actually just thought they were going to lunge down and back. I didn't know that they were going to stop and do burpees there.
Yeah.
Oh man, we agreed not to do any pausing, but I wish I could rewind just a little bit to see how long that transitional rest time for Brandi was.
After the last set of burpees,
So Brandi jumped up. I think she did 3-3-1-1. Cal, I think, did 5-2-1 or 5-1-1-1.
So it's 8 total. So it would have been I think it was 6-1-1.
6-1-1.
Yeah, I think she was 6-1-1 because she ended with 2 singles.
Yeah, Cal's pull looked stronger. Like she pulls herself all the way up. I don't know if that's just good hip extension or...
Yeah, well, the other thing is when we talk about how we're actually going to try and readjust for a redo, she's really good at finding an active arch position when she's stringing reps together. So instead of doing the 4-2-2 next time, we were thinking about trying to do something like a 5-3 on the first 2 sets, take out one of those rest breaks, and actually leverage the idea of her being able to find a good position in between, like inside of a set.
Yeah.
And if we can take that rest time out, that's 10 seconds per round on just the muscle ups.
What about her resting at the top versus coming down, jumping off the bar?
Yeah,
Does
again.
she want the eccentric to like swing back into it?
Well, she's had foot pain the last 2 days, so I know that she was trying to limit the amount of times that she was coming down off the bar because of that shock.
I feel like that's
that
always
happens.
when I get hurt, is coming off of a pull-up bar.
I get hurt with everything I do. So, yeah, she was doing a slow jog the other day, and she came out of it saying, "Oh man, my foot has just really lit up." So I know that was in her head in terms of making sure that she didn't have too many shocks on that.
Yeah, this is an interesting workout for 15 minutes to get to a lift. These are pretty elite females. I mean, I know there's individual competitors that don't have muscle up limitations and that are smaller and can do burpees faster that will beat these times by a pretty good margin, but it's not like you're watching poor executions of this workout, and that's not really that much time to lift. I think the guys will have maybe a little bit more time, but we had 2 strategies for lifting with Brandi, or she said she was going to plan 2 strategies, like a 10-minute time and then like a 13-minute time. What did Cal just hit there?
That was 170, so she took the bar from the workout and just put 45s on the end of it.
Just to build it up.
Yeah, just to touch what a hang squat clean feels like under fatigue.
Yeah, it's funny, Brandi like started changing her bar right away, but Cal actually took her lift first. This is Brandi's first attempt, right? I think this is 175. I think she went 175 and then 205.
Yeah, she had the change plates on the outside, right? So she popped those off and then put that on.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty good lift. Brandi's been doing a lot of hang cleans because she was going to go to Independence Games before they had stopped doing the elite division. So that was one of the events, and she did a bunch of those in training. So she's like, oh, I finally get to test it. And then she did her first lift, and I was like, you only got 2. Like, make a jump that you want. Oh, here's Cal.
So this is Cal at 220. This was another one where we had originally planned on her just doing a hang clean, but she did it, and it was a little bit grindy, so she went ahead and did the squats to make sure she got a number on the board. And we're running out of time at this point. I think that was at like 13:30 or 13:40.
I think it was almost 14 minutes.
Yeah.
And then she went up to 240.
So she put up to 240 after that.
And Brandi went 175 to 205. Brandi's goal was to hit 215, but she was planning on having 3 attempts. She only got this one at 205 in the repeat. That's another thing from a repeat perspective. Is like, what's the strategy? Because if you go faster on the Metcon and don't hit the same clean, you're stuck in this position where you don't know which score to put on the board. So we'll have to like really sit down and think about what the best strategy is. I think just opening heavier probably makes sense for her. Cal,
you can see Cal wiping the sweat off of her shoulders right there. She actually said after this lift that was the main limitation for her. She felt like the bar was slipping off, so it's something to keep in mind for the redo. Putting some fabric on your shoulders, putting a shirt on after the workout.
Yeah, Brandi had a second shirt but didn't have time, and Cal just
slid right through.
Yeah. She took that lift, now in hindsight, looking at it, she took that lift, I think, maybe a little bit late, because Brandi finished her second squat like 2 seconds before the 15-minute time cap.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's the whole workout. I think from an execution perspective, for people that are planning to do this for themselves, I think there are a couple things that you
can look at the camera now.
Okay, it's obviously dependent upon, I'm watching a frozen frame. I'm commentating on the
so
frozen
interesting.
frame. Yeah. You made me lose my train of thought.
So for people
for people doing this, obviously you have your personal limitations that you have to work around if you're going to get bottlenecked on muscle ups, but there's little things that you can do to strategize how you're going to break up each round. Are you going to swing your steps through when you're doing your lunges? What's your burpee cadence? How are you going to work on your footwork? You can even have strategies where you change gears within burpee sets. So if you know muscle ups are a limitation, you want to go into those a little calm. Your second set of 8 could be done a little bit of a slower cadence, where your first set of 8 burpees are done at a faster cadence. What are your rest times between? Are you faster doing 8 singles on muscle ups or 4 doubles on muscle ups, or like Adam talked about with Cal, where she's going to go up and try to take out one of her rest times with regards to muscle ups. So there are so many different strategies. I wish actually, or maybe in the future when we do this, it'd be nice to contrast 2 different types of athletes that get a similar score, but that have different limitations on the same workout. For this one, you see 2 bigger athletic females doing a gymnastics limited workout, so they had to strategize around the same limitation in this one. But in the future, hopefully we can have a little bit of juxtaposition to be able to see different ones. But I think this should be good and timely for people to watch and think about strategy for themselves. And
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would say is, like you and Brandi had probably talked about before, is for the lift portion of it, I would have at least 2 different game plans that are basically dependent on the amount of time that you have left. So the time window of having 4 minutes and the time window of having 2.5 minutes drastically changes the amount of lifts that you have, and it changes the approach. So do I hit a hang squat clean just to groove the movement pattern? Do I not have any time for that, and I have to establish a weight to make sure that this score is going to count for that week? So I would take the time and actually plan that out and work backwards from what your goal or target weight would be for both of those time windows.
Mostly what me and Brandi talked about is if I was allowed to make fun of her when we were doing the commentary. She said I could.
Were you talking to Brandi or Brenda?
Brenda. Yeah, I don't know. I think she was well fed.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to piss Brenda off.
Tell them who Brenda is.
Mike, our coach, is married to Brandi, and Mike
and Brenda.
Yeah, and Brenda is Brandi's alter ego when Brandi is hungry. So I just basically call her Brenda all the time. But I'm scared of her.
Yeah, even though she's the nicest human being that's ever existed.
All right, and we might have Travis doing the same workout post sometime later this week.
Yeah, Travis is going to I think he's going to come back today and do it. So that'll probably get posted after the workouts are all up. But you should be able to see me make fun of Travis. Or maybe he'll make fun of me in this one. Who knows?
All right, YouTubers, thank you.